Do I have Spotify? Do I have audio? Audio would be good. We do have audio. Beautiful. There you are. Excellent. Hello, everybody. Oh, no, I put the title as release mode. Oh, well. Let's see. This is going to be development updates, Q&A, and feedback. I'm not certain that we're going to get to feature building this week just because I have a lot to talk about, but we will worry about that when it becomes relevant. All right, that's up there. Hopefully the audio's in an okay spot. Josh didn't yell at me for being late today, so that's progress. Okay. What else was I going to get up? The release notes real quick. There we go. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of Future Group Friday. For those of you new to this stream, my name is Cheese Doodle. I am a member of the TagPro steering committee and development team, which are the two groups responsible for building, planning, kind of putting together the next steps for the game TagPro. And if you don't know what TagPro is, you can find it at tagpro.gg. It is a very straightforward 4v4 capture the flag game. You can play it live right in your browser. Short games of about 6 minutes, no account needed, all free. The goal of these streams is to go through the progress that we've been working on and kind of talk through what's been happening behind the scenes as we do a lot of things that don't quite get announced right when they're happening. So we spend some time here every week going through what's happened over the last week, talk about some feedback requests that we've received from people, and then we usually finish up with a feature building session as well. But as I mentioned, this week might be a little bit different just because we've had a lot to talk about, I guess is the simplest way to put it. We had a very, very in-depth discussion over the last 3 or 4 days that's honestly came a little bit out of nowhere. So I don't really know how to segue into it, but I think what we're going to do is back up for a moment. We'll start with development updates following the release because we did go live last Friday with a release that you can see in front of me right here. And we talked about this on stream last week already, but there were a couple of small bugs that came up from it. So I just wanted to talk through what had come up, what we fixed, and then we'll get into that other discussion that I was mentioning. So there was something I wanted to run by you, says Yelpa. Run it by me, Yelpa. What you got? Or was it related to that conversation that I'm about to do? Oh, come on. I'm going to... Okay. Yeah, fair. Fair enough. Fair enough. Forgot I even put that on the thing. I'm going to sweat in this thing. This is awful. Awful. All right. Somebody has to tell Refine this is happening because I don't think he even knows that we did this. So you run it by me offline. All right. Well, thanks for that. At the start of the stream too. Really appreciate that. So a week ago from today was Friday the 20th, if I'm not mistaken. And so let's just scroll all the way back up there, talk through what we have worked on since then. It's more than I thought it was going to be, actually. Was it the 20th? My date's right? Yeah, 20th. Damn. Okay, so there was the very, very first thing that went up after the release was the stuff that I was talking about on stream last time. We had the bug related to games starting. There were just issues with the pre-game balancing in casual was broken because it was trying to calculate a field that didn't exist on some balls, basically, and that brought things down a couple of times. We're doing all the redeems today. Okay. Should pour this on my head with the raincoat on. So I'm going to skip through everything that we talked about on stream. But after the stream ended, we had a problem that came up related to ranked matchmaking probabilities. There were some games being created that were way too lopsided. Like, I think there was a screenshot of an 80% to 20% ranked game, which is obviously not the goal of ranked. We want it to be 60 to 40 for all games, and so we put in a quick fix for that. We had a fix came up related to ranked voids. If a player was voiding for the first time and hadn't played before, it was not populating the number 0 properly, so it was saying they had no voids, but the field didn't exist. It's just how code works. Don't worry about it. We got that fixed. After that, we had a very strange bug that came up, and this originally was noticed because in the mod tools we have a semi-automated system that notifies us if we have improperly marked 2 players as the same player. And I'm not going to talk about how we do that, but we noticed that logging was duplicated. So at the end of games, we were getting that message twice, which indicated something was going wrong, and we couldn't really figure out why. So the problem was not with the mod tool side of it. It was actually with the end of game processes. When a game ends, ranked and casual, it takes the end of that game, kind of how the game ended. It goes through all of the players who were in that game, and then it updates the database with whatever the results of that game were. Pretty self-explanatory. But at the same time, there was a new function added to handle some of the more ranked specific stuff, like awarding your flares at the end of games. And we found that something in that change was accidentally duplicating the end of game logic. So the good news is the duplicated logic was not doing more than a single run would have done. So for example, if your end score is, pick a number, 890, it would update the database and say that your score was 890. Then it would run again, it would recalculate everything, and it would still say at the end of that calculation that your score was 890. So there was a bug and it was wrong, but thankfully it was not generating any errors that actually lasted because it was just overwriting the value with the same value. So we noticed it because of something else. We got that fixed. There weren't any other downstream implications for that we were able to find. So that should be good to go now. Then we had a very silly bug came up. I think Grant pointed this out originally. If you are aware already, if you have an alternate account and you try to go queue up for ranked, when you go to this page here, it's not going to let you click on ranked because you're not using your ranked account. You can only have one account in ranked per season. But with that change, we were accidentally showing the ranked profile of your ranked account on your alternate account. So one person was on their alt and they realized they could see their skill score and they're like, that's not supposed to be right because this account hasn't actually played ranked. So we got that fixed. I did, in the process of fixing that, add in, I'm going to call it a feature where if it is you on your alternate account, you can still see the ranked chart for your primary account. But if somebody else goes to your alternate account, they will not see the ranked chart for your main account. And that's just a privacy thing. We don't disclose alternate accounts, so nobody should be able to tell by comparing 2 charts that this is the alternate of another account. So you can still see it if it's your account, but nobody else can see that on your profile. So that went in. Then we had a small issue just related to players leaving right at the end of games, where if the game ends, I talked about those post-game updates that were duplicated. After that was fixed, if the game ends, but somebody leaves the moment the game ends, not like a second after, not a second before, but like the same tick that the game decides to end, the game will process that player as in the game because they were in the game when it ended. But then when it comes back from that update to notify the lobby if something happened, so say you earned a flare in that game, when it came back to award you that flare and to put the message in chat that you earned the flare, that person wasn't a player anymore. They were already gone. And that it's a really, really small turnaround, but it happened like twice, I think, in the time before we fixed it. And basically it tried to find you, you didn't exist, and the game process crashed. So the games are going down because of that. So we got that patched up as well. Then we had save game Mongo ID. Oh, that's right. Pass the flag reported this one. So it was similar to what you see in front of me with the profile chart, but it was happening for replays as well. So he was playing on an alternate account that was not his ranked account. And when he finished a casual game on his alternate account, the replay for that game got pasted to his ranked account instead of to the account that he had played the game on. And it was similar to the check where we were trying to figure out if somebody was a Smurf or not, but it was saving the game to the wrong profile in the process. So we got that fixed. So whatever game whatever account you play the game on, that's the account the game will be saved to, which is the expected behavior. So we got that fixed as well. And I think that was it for nope, there are two more. Charts, just reviews here. That's what I was just talking about. Sorry, a different feature got started in the middle, but I want to talk about the bugs and then I'll go back to talk about the feature that got started. Okay, the two things that I'm missing here were the leaderboard entries. So we got a report from Nabby, and I think Grant reported this as well. If you were looking at the leaderboard, this view looked fine. So everyone looks like it's supposed to right here. But if you clicked on a different tier, say you went down to gold and you were looking at the list, you would notice that there were players missing from the list. There would just be a jump in the numbers. And we couldn't see an obvious reason for that to happen because we hadn't touched that logic, but we found that what happens when you finish a game is the post-game updates that I've talked about already happen. It notifies the lobby if something changed, like you went up a tier, you went down a tier, whatever, and then it sends all those updates back to the joiner. And the joiner is basically the code that hosts everything that you see on the site right now. When it has that update, if you gained or lost skill score, it updates this value so that you can see that you went up or down right as the game is ending instead of having it be on a delay like it was at the very start of rank. So it's nice because you get to see if you passed somebody, maybe you were Sandball 1 and you gained 5 points, so you go up to 129, this person goes down to 130. All that code was working fine, but the way that we do that is that you have a big list of all the players, and if you notice that this person's supposed to be switching up to the next spot, you take this person's value, you add 1 to their rank, and then you take this person's value, you subtract 1, obviously, and you update their score. But to do that, you have to remove this person from the array entirely and then put them back in at the next spot. And when we were putting them back in at the next spot, we had updated the name of a field, and that updated field is a different field that we use to filter inactive players off the leaderboard. So it was accidentally marking anybody who had passed somebody else on the leaderboard as inactive and removing them. So you would see 128, nothing, and then 130, and 129 was marked as inactive even though they had just passed somebody else on the leaderboard. So it was a really weird thing to track down, but we got it patched up now, and that's good to go. And then the last bug fix that came in was back-end entirely. So I've showed this page before a couple of times. This is basically all the server slots that we have open. If there's nothing running on them, if there's a public, private, ranked, or mini game running on that server, just so we can keep track of which games are starting where. And if like a server is overloaded, we can see that New York is a pretty busy server because it's the US East Northern server, and that's where most of our player base lives. But what we were finding was that we had changed a little bit of the startup process to actually to fix different bugs, but in the process of fixing it, we had introduced a race condition where if we were pushing live updates to the server, like those bugs that I talked about, we don't want to bring the whole site down just to push those small fixes. So if we brought the site down, it would work fine. But we were just pushing the fix directly to the site and then hoping that the games would pick it up for the next time they launched. And that was working. But if a game was starting in the same moment that we pushed the update, it got stuck in like an intermediate state where the game wasn't actually able to accept players yet, but it had the old code on it. And it just led to a whole cascade of games crashing because everything else tried to fill in that missing game slot over and over again. And everything just got clogged up, basically. It's like a traffic jam happened, which was annoying because we couldn't figure out why it was happening because the code itself was fine. It was the code plus the direct update that we had pushed when we looked at the timestamps. So we tracked that down finally, which was good. And then a secondary effect of that one was the way that we end a game process and say that the game is now ready for a new game. So say this ranked game ends over here. Once this game ends, it should come back over to idle, and then the server knows, oh, okay, this game's idle, I can start a new game on it. But the way that we were ending this game, putting it back in idle, and then notifying the joiner to start another one wasn't quite lining up properly. We were missing one of the exit handlers, so it was getting stuck, and that was why if you were having trouble launching a group on, I think it was Wednesday night or Monday night, I forget which day it was, players were finding they couldn't launch their games because they would click play now in their group, and then they would just get stuck in the joiner. And the reason they were stuck in the joiner is because the joiner was not properly notifying, the server was not properly notifying the joiner that game was ready for players to actually join it again. So you would get to the joiner would just say, yep, I got nothing for you, and you would just wait there for either an indefinite amount of time or until a different game ended properly, which was not happening all of the time. This bug actually existed before the release, but for some reason something we changed about it was making it more likely to happen because of the speed that we were trying to. I don't know. It's something to do with the timing of things. Got a little bit shorter, which is better for long-term stuff because it's just more efficient. But it kind of showed a crack in the system that we had before. This was actually reported by Oceania 2 weeks ago in their private groups, and they realized they couldn't join sometimes, and it was the same problem happening that we got patched up. So all that should be fixed now. It's all working as expected. If you are still having trouble launching any sort of games, ranked, private, casual, doesn't matter, let us know so we can take a closer look, but we should be good to go on that. After that, we have a new feature on the way, courtesy of Orchid. This is not something we had planned. It's just something he thought was interesting, which is kind of how development works these days. Why is my mom texting me? Nope, we're all good. Head-to-head stats is a conversation that we've had before, but it's not something we've actually made a plan for. I'm not in the Arctic. Yelp have redeemed the put on the raincoat thing for me, so I have to wear a raincoat for this stream. I did not make a reward for removing a raincoat, unfortunately, so I'm just going to sweat here for the rest of this stream. Anyway, head-to-head stats are a thing that are interesting. Obviously, people talk about that in the leagues a lot. And there are some scripts that I think did that in the past, especially with the rolling 300. They were like the friendly and the enemy kind of thing in the past, but nothing native. So what we're adding in is a feature on the profile that I can't show you right now because I'm on production, but another tab that's going to be your head-to-head stats. So how well do you play with and against certain players in both ranked, casual, different regions, and all of that. I'm not going to go into much more detail than that for now, but there is a secondary feature built off of that one, where in the ranked launcher, if you are with a player who you always perform well with, that player will have a little notification or a little icon that says, hey, you have a teammate who you play really well with, and just like a fun little tidbit. And on the other team, if there's someone who always beats you consistently, there's going to be a little icon next to them that says, hey, this player kicks your butt pretty often, watch out, kind of thing. So it's not going to happen all the time. You're not going to see them every single launcher that you're in, but if there's a player that you're very polarized with on your teammate or against on the other team, it's going to tell you that is the case in that game. So just little fun information to display. Nothing changing in terms of games being created or anything like that. We do maybe want to think about using that same feature when we talk about duo, trio, and team queuing, which we have talked about on stream, but we have not gotten to that point yet. Why is my mom texting you? I hope she's not. Cool. I can finally quantify how much he has farmed off of me. Yeah, it's gonna be ouch my balls kicking everyone's butt for sure. So that is still under review. It's not merged in yet, but that is well on its way to being added for the next release. After that, where did that go? Sorry, I lost my spot on the stream here, or on the scroll rather. Buddy, game, leaderboard entries we talked about. MTC changes. The Map Committee has requested changes that I actually am not going to announce right now, but there will be an announcement from the MTC in the next week with some changes to the casual rotation. I will let them explain that. I put those changes in so they can actually use them, and then gave them a better way to see how many times a map has actually been played. So right now, the way that we aggregate map stats is archaic in truth, and the way that we count it is the number of times a player who has rated the map has played on that map. So for example, if there's a trial map like Dirtbag and I have rated that map as I like it and I have played 5 times and maybe 40 other people have played the map but they have not rated the map yet, it will say that there are 5 plays on that map, which is kind of a useless statistic because I've played it 5 times but I've only rated it once. So there's only 1 rating for my 5 plays. All the other plays are completely ignored in that count, which is just kind of, what are they supposed to do with that? So we're making a new stat, which is basically just the spawn frequency. How many times has this map been selected, been displayed in public games? So when they look and say, oh, Dirtbag has been played 100 times, but it only has 9 ratings, maybe that's something they want to look into. Or maybe Potted Plant has played 7 times, but it's got like 25 ratings already. Maybe it's a little more of a polarizing map. So just a little bit more information they can actually use to make some decisions. So that should go in pretty soon. That's going to go in silently with the other thing that I can't tell you about, and they'll announce what they want to do with that on their own. After that, we've got... What? Oh, it's the leaderboard thing again. Sorry. I thought there was one other feature that I'd worked on. Now I'm confused. Joiner games. Oh, that's what it was. Spectator redirect timing. We were still getting reports of the ranked queue splitting players up, which was really frustrating because we spent a lot of time not having that be an issue. And we were still getting reports that if, so for example, the easy example, a tier 1 player is in the joiner and they are waiting for their next game, and there is an active game happening with a tier 1 player in that game. In theory, the tier 1 player in the joiner should wait for the tier 1 player in the game to have their game end. That player should come back to the joiner, and then together those tier 1 players should go into the next game. We've spent a lot of time making sure that's how it actually works. What we saw a couple of days ago was a tier 1 player waiting for a game. The game ended, the tier 1 player came back to the joiner, and then only the first tier 1 player got sent to the next game. And we're like, what the heck? Like, we spent so much time on making this happen, it's still not putting them together. We figured out why, and it has to do with the way that we wait for players in the joiner. And I've talked about this so many times, but just to go through it one more time, if you are going to be redirected to a different page, so for example, if a ranked 1 player is in a game, they end the game, and there was an active casual game going, I've talked about how sometimes that ranked player would get pulled in to fill the casual game, and that was bad because as they were getting pulled in to fill the game, the other player who was not queued for casual would go into the ranked game, and then this player was stuck in casual, so they wouldn't actually be a part of it. We fixed that problem. That problem is actually fixed, but the same exact problem actually existed for spectating. And so what we found was that player who was in the ranked game finished the game, got sent to spectate, and as they were getting sent to spectate, this other player who'd been waiting the whole time got sent into a game. So they passed, there were ships passing in the night, and all the fix was to add the same process for spectating that we add for casual games. And what that is basically is that we notice that a player who's being sent to a game is also queued for ranked, and we notify the joiner that, hey, this person's not eligible for matchmaking because they're between pages right now, but we know they're going to be back in the joiner any moment now, so just wait a couple of seconds for them to get back. And so we added that same process for spectating, so when they get there, it's going to say, okay, now you can make the game with the person who was waiting the whole time and send them both in together. Or if it's ready right when they get back to the game, it'll send them in without sending that person to spectate, but sometimes the timing doesn't quite line up, so the person finds another game before they're able to get redirected into the ranked game. Oh gosh. It's not cold over here at all. I mean, it's cold outside. It's quite warm inside my apartment. I'm already sweating. Yelpa redeemed wear the raincoat for 5,000, which I forgot existed. So this is my life now. So that went in, I think, on Wednesday night. So that should be good to go. And I think that was the end of all of the actual issues that we had following this release. So I'm pretty happy overall with how the release went. Most of those bugs were pretty minor things, like they didn't take a whole lot of troubleshooting, except for the joiner slot one that I talked about with the state between where the game is kind of thing. Everything else was pretty straightforward. So if you've seen any other small stuff, please let us know in the bug reports channel. But I think that's all for now. So other things that we worked on in the meantime. I think there was a request from the candy board somebody put in to have respawn warnings on player balls. We have a trial branch up for that. Still not sold on the concept, but we want to see how it works in practice. And we'll get that in for the next release if we like it. And I think that brings us to the main event for this week. So I teased this at the start of the stream. We had a very, very, very large, complicated conversation about a lot of things. How do I break this conversation down in a way that's digestible? Before that, pause for a second. If you have any questions for me that I can answer on stream, there's a form that I've been putting out. I want to make sure that you have access to that just in case some questions do come up from what I'm about to talk about. Let me just get a link to that real quick. So any questions for me that you'd like to ask anonymously, you can put them on this form. I'll pin this. This is also linked in the YouTube comment section as well as on the Reddit posts. If you have trouble finding it, you can also just reach out to me. Baby appointment ran long. You did not miss anything, Moosin. We are about to get into the thing that you actually wanted to be here for. I'm just trying to figure out how to actually start explaining what we are going to be doing. So I think it's easiest to start with why we had to have this conversation in the first place. And so we were talking about originally season 1 of Ranked, ending season 1 of Ranked and awarding the flare for season 1 of Ranked. Now you will notice if you go to a profile, you can see the season 0 flare, which we've talked about plenty, which was the little match over here for people who helped us play at least one game of Ranked in season 0 to help us test. So we said, thank you, here's a flare. In the process of adding that flare, we decided that for the future, every Ranked season, we should have an additional flare. And that flare is basically motivation to stay active during the season. So don't listen too closely to what I'm about to say because this is about to change. But what we had decided on was that if you stay active during a Ranked season, and active is defined as 10 games per week for the duration of the season, that for your activity, you would be rewarded with a permanent flare. Now, we had not announced what the season 1 flare was going to be. We were having a discussion about what the season 1 flare should be. We had a flare. We made the flare. It's a pretty cool flare. And I think that the cool factor of that flare is part of the problem that drove this conversation, because we made this really cool flare that I think people are going to be very excited for. You are still going to get that flare, but it's only available to players in Ranked. And at face value, that's not really a problem because it's a Ranked queue. You play Ranked games, you earn a Ranked flare. But if you zoom out a little bit and you think about TagPro as a whole, what is the goal of Ranked? What is the goal of Casual? What is the goal of the site that we have? The goal is for people to come to the site to play whatever game mode they want to play and to enjoy that game mode, right? And so if you are a player who enjoys Casual, you come to the site, you click play now, you don't feel like playing Ranked because you just want to play casually, that's okay. That's a thing we want to encourage if that's the way that you enjoy this game. But if we've added this whole complex Ranked system, we're adding all of these extra tier flares, we're adding these permanent flares, we're pushing people towards Ranked a little bit. And that's not inherently a bad thing if we're trying to grow that game mode, but the TagPro is not Ranked. TagPro is TagPro, which has Casual and which has Ranked. So saying that you have to play one specific game mode to be eligible for 4 new flares per year, because that's the cadence that we're hoping to have these new seasons at, doesn't really line up with the vision of the game. So the conversation started there. It's saying, why are these Ranked flares only available to Ranked players? What can we do to maybe have these flares be awarded to Casual players in addition to Ranked players? And there was a lot of friction right at the start of that conversation because it's a Ranked season, it's a Ranked flare. How do you award those Ranked things to Casual players? Those aren't this, they don't line up, right? They're just different concepts. So how do you say that a Casual player can earn a Ranked flare? And so that was just setting the stage for the conversation that we had and trying to figure out where do we go from there. And I think I missed a couple comments here. Yeah, not per week, MC. We can't keep up with that frequency of making flares, but you're going to like where we're going with this, I think. So I think what I'm going to do now is kind of talk through the whole discussion that we had. And if you have questions along the way, please let me know. I'm going to try not to lose you guys as we go here. So my main issue, I just explained it. It's a Ranked flare. It's a Ranked season. How do you award that to Casual players? What did you just walk into? You walked into a very in-depth conversation that the Future Group has been having for the last few days, and me wearing a rain jacket, thanks to Yalpa. So where to go? Yeah, so we need to restructure something. So if you want to have Casual players earn a Ranked flare, it cannot be a Ranked flare anymore. It has to be a flare that is above Ranked and Casual. So when you take, I'm streaking. Please don't streak on my stream. Instead of TagPro being the umbrella, Casual and Ranked and Seasons being under the Ranked umbrella, you have to take the concept of Seasons and put them up with the TagPro umbrella. So Seasons cannot be underneath Ranked if you're going to have Ranked flares that are also available to casual players because they're not under that. The casual players are not under the ranked umbrella. They are not a part of the ranked season. So it cannot be a ranked season if those players are going to earn that flare. So to make it work for both queues, you have to take the concept of seasons and put it at the top and say that they are not ranked seasons anymore. They are TagPro seasons. And so if you have a TagPro season, what does that actually mean for ranked and what does that actually mean for casual? So the answer for ranked is pretty straightforward. It's what we have now. You have roughly 3-month periods where you have a leaderboard, and at the end of that 3-month period, the leaderboard has a reset. You have a soft reset of the skill scores. We crunch everybody back down to the middle. You award the flares that people earned in the meantime, and you have the there was one other thing that we do, but I forget what it is now. Oh yeah, the ability to change your ranked account so you can switch to a different name or whatever you want to do in between seasons. So you can still do all that for ranked, but what does that actually mean for casual? And I'm going to skip ahead in our conversation to the answer to that question. It's nothing. You don't do anything differently because the goal of casual is to queue up and to play casual. There shouldn't be some larger implication. There shouldn't be some reset of skills. There's nothing related to any of that. The one thing that we have that's on a schedule, shake up the map pool. No, I'm not going to make the MTC follow that. The one thing that we have for casual that is on a schedule are the leaderboards. We have a daily leaderboard. We have a weekly leaderboard. We have a monthly leaderboard. So it's not that much of a stretch to say, what if there was a seasonal leaderboard? And we add a fourth one, and that seasonal leaderboard could be in tune with the ranked season, right? So the season is now TagPro. For ranked, that season means that this leaderboard is doing its thing. For casual, it could mean that this fourth unseen leaderboard is doing its thing. And what that allows us to do is take that ranked season flare and make it just the season flare. Now, how do you earn that flare? We had a long conversation about this because if you think about what the requirements are right now, it's 10 games per week over the course of your whatever number of weeks long season. So right now the season will be like 12 weeks, so it'll be 120 games by the end of the season. For casual, your games are a little bit shorter. So the question was, if we said it's 120 games to win the flare in ranked, should it be a larger number in casual? Is that confusing? Because then you have different counts of games that need to be played to earn the same flare, because it'd be the same flare regardless. It's not one flare for ranked, one flare for casual. It's just one seasonal flare. That's your matchstick here. So if you have different counts, how do you display that information? Because it's not, you can't put it on the profile because now it's like each different queue has its own thing. And we even do that. We have that problem right now for ranked because if you play 104 games in CTF, but you only play maybe 50 games in NF, you wouldn't get the flare, even though combined you did meet that 120 game minimum. So it's queue specific. It's not a good system right now. It's not intuitive. It's hard to tell whether you are or are not eligible for a flare. So all of that led to the conclusion that simpler is better with these kinds of things. So instead of worrying about, am I in neutral flag? Am I in North America? Am I in casual? Whatever I'm playing, instead of trying to break down if that counts towards this count or the other count or whatever count it is towards that one flare, just combine them all together and say that it's a TagPro season. In a TagPro season, you have to play TagPro games. We don't care if they are casual. We don't care if they are ranked. We don't care what level you are at in those games. We just want you playing TagPro, which brings us back to what I was originally saying. The goal of the site is for you to play TagPro. So it shouldn't be more complicated than that to earn those flares. So TagPro season, TagPro flare, either queue, it does not matter. You have to play X number of games and you earn that flare. That was the easy version of the answer. The hard version of the answer is that to do that, you need to restructure a lot about what we've actually built for ranked. Leaderboards here currently include rank points, and rank points is a bad name for them. We're going to be getting rid of the rank points concept with the shop in a couple of months. Maybe not even a month or two. We'll see. Rank points are going away, but the leaderboards themselves are going to still exist. But they currently take ranked games and casual games at the same time, and that's how you get onto the leaderboard. So for example, HVM Piercers only played ranked this season, as far as I'm aware. They are at the top of the monthly leaderboard. So that's fine for the system that exists right now, but we already have a ranked leaderboard. And the goal of ranked, it's more of a quality focus, right? Like if you're playing ranked, the goal is to win games, to be ranked higher, to show that you are above other people, and to have higher quality games. Fine. With this leaderboard, this is a quantity-based leaderboard. It's how many games did you play, essentially. And there's a little bit of fluctuation in there because if you like are a really good player, maybe you earn a couple more points every game. But in sum, the players at the top of these leaderboards are the ones with the most hours played, not necessarily the ones with the strongest skill set. And so if we take this leaderboard and we're adding a seasonal leaderboard, it should still be quantity-based. It should not be quality-based over the course of a longer time period. So the idea here is that we take ranked out of the equation here. We already have a ranked leaderboard. Ranked with the quality focus already has its own board. Fine. We take this leaderboard and say this is the casual leaderboard. We stop including ranked games in the rank points on the right side here. We only count the points that you earn in casual games. And we say that this is now a fully casual focused leaderboard. It's all quantity based on how much you played the game, and you can earn the same flares that you always earn here. But if we're adding a seasonal section, again, that's a 3-month period. That's a really, really long time to be playing a lot of TagPro to stay at the top. So we would add a flare to that, mostly because I don't see players responding well to us not having a flare there. It's not very consistent to say that we have a daily flare, we have a weekly flare, we have a monthly flare, and we have a seasonal leaderboard, but no flare. It's just a leaderboard. You can't get anything for it. You just happen to have a leaderboard. Fine, deal with it. I don't think that's going to sit well with the community if we did that. So the initial idea, and I'll keep talking for a minute here, but the initial idea was that you have a seasonal leaderboard, top 3 get a different flare that we have made. And the response to that was, that's a lot of playing for a very small chance of earning that flare. The monthly leaderboard flare is already pretty inaccessible for a lot of people. I mean, think about how many players are actually playing right now. I've played not a ton, but a decent bit this month. And my monthly, I have 3,377. That doesn't even put me in the top 50, I think, or top 100. Yeah, I'm almost half of the person in 100th place on the leaderboard. Like, you need to play a lot to get at the top of these leaderboards, which is fine. But now compound that 3 times. You have a 3-month season. The amount that you need to play to get even close to the top of that is just, it's kind of insane. So how do you justify that seasonal leaderboard without making it so inaccessible that no one's even going to want to think about it because it's just impossible? The answer to that lies in how many people we award the flare to. So for daily, you have 3 players, fine. Weekly, 3 players, you can still live with that, it's fine. But for monthly, 3 players is pretty inaccessible, like we talked about. Seasonal, completely inaccessible. So we're going to change that and say that for daily, 3 is fine. Weekly, we're going to increase that to 5 people every week. Monthly, we're going to increase that to 10. Seasonal, increase to 20 people. And again, that's going to make it slightly more accessible, but still pretty hard to get. Getting in the top 10 is not a small task on this leaderboard, right? 10 right there. Somewhat contested position to get 10th spot here. And that is still 3 times the amount of points that I have, and I've played a decent amount this season. So those numbers will obviously change if it's casual only, because ranked players won't be showing up on this board, but it will be something that casual players can work towards without having to worry about their win rate or worry about a ranked leaderboard. It is a truly casual leaderboard. So I think I've missed a couple of questions in the meantime. You're pissed that you barely missed the monthly after grinding every single day one summer? Yeah, now imagine you did that for a whole season and you missed it by 1 spot because only 3 people were selected. People are still going to miss it, but it's much more attainable, much more of a reasonable goal to strive for if it's a larger pool of players. So that was part 2 of the discussion, and we are not done talking about this. I need to scroll for a second to catch myself up on where we are. And if I'm losing anybody, please say so, because it's a lot of talking right now. Where did that go? Shoot. I'm sweating so much in this Yelp. I'm very upset with you. Oh, that's right. So this is a slight tangent, but still on the same topic. So I mentioned at the very start that we had a very, very cool flare for season 1. And again, that kickstarted a lot of this conversation. But the problem with that is mostly on the communication side of things. I don't know if anybody even saw it. We had buried in the last release notes that the season 1 was going to be ending on March 1st. That is not the plan anymore. It's still in the announcement post. I should probably edit that, but that's not what we're going to do anymore because we are changing how seasons work. We're changing how flares are awarded. And if we're doing all of that, but still awarding this really, really cool flare only to ranked players, I think we're going to get a negative response from the community because there are players who only played casual, and that's fine. They have every right to do that, who aren't going to be eligible for that flare, even though we're saying in the future they're going to be eligible for other very cool flares. So if we announced what that flare was, for example, today, and said you have 24 hours to play 100 games, it's not going to happen, right? So we want to make sure that the flare that we created that we think is really cool is accessible for everybody. So we're going to push that flare back to season 2, and we have a different flare that is, I think, pretty cool still, but it's not quite as coveted, if you will, for most players. So that'll be the thing that we award to both ranked and casual players who met that game cutoff. And I'll talk a little more about that later. But where was I going with that? So right now we have a 7-part problem that we're working on behind the scenes. The first part is that we want to switch the season process from manual to automated. And what I mean by that is right now, to end a TagPro season, a developer like myself needs to go into a certain page, click end season, or click start season for the next one. We want to automate that process. So if you look at the leaderboards here, daily, weekly, monthly, we're not doing anything to reset those boards. In an hour and 22 minutes, it's going to flip over. Nobody's going to do anything. It just automatically awards the flares and switches to the next day. That's a good system because it doesn't require us constantly focusing on working on these kinds of things that should just be automated in the background. So same thing for the week, same thing for the month. We want the same thing for the season. But to do that, we have to plug in all of those ranked functions that we created to be manual to that automated process. That's what I was working on very late last night, trying to get that in a good spot. Then after we do that, changing this leaderboard name from leaderboards to casual, switching it so that it's only counting casual games in the post-game flow. Oh, that was the big one. The way that we award those seasonal flares right now is that at the end of the season, when we click that end season button, it goes through the database and it finds all the players who played games, sees if they met the cutoff for games. So right now, again, it would be 120 for the end of next 12-week season, 10 games per week, 120 games in the course of the season. Any player who met that minimum would be awarded that flare at that moment. If we're switching the way that it's earned to be a hard cutoff, and I don't have the exact number yet, I think we're looking at 150 maybe games during the season. If we're making it a hard cutoff and not dynamic based on the length of the season, there's no need to wait for the end of the season to award those flares to players. So we're going to switch the flare awarding for the seasonal flare to the post-game flow. So right now, if you finish a game and say you got, I don't know, the hammer flare, if you got 55% or 65% win rate, it would give you that flare at that moment when the game ends. We're going to do the same thing for the seasonal flare. So if we had done that in season 0, you would finish your 150th game and it would say Cheese Doodle has earned the match flare. Pretty straightforward, but it does require some changes to how we handle that. Then we've got the expansion for the number of winners in each of these categories that I talked about already. And we need to add progress as well. So making sure players understand what they have to do to earn flares and what they have left to earn them is important. And that's kind of what we were doing with these changes here. If you look at me highlighting, oh, can you not see that? Oh shoot, you can't see tooltips. If you hover over a flare or a tier here, it'll tell you how many wins you need to have and what tier you need to have those wins in to earn the next flare. So I earned a platinum flare, but I need 10 more wins at or above diamond to earn the diamond flare. I'm not in diamond, so I can't earn that right now, but it's important that players know what they have to do to earn those flares. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We don't have any information like that that's obvious for the seasonal flares. So we want to add to this box here your progress towards that seasonal flare. And then in the seasonal tab, same thing. We want to say this is how many games you have finished. This is how many games that you need. And we also realize that if we're combining both of those queues together, so it's any TagPro games, we can also show a display on this page where if you go to the all and you look a little closer at the flares like this, it'll tell you how many wins you have to go to get the next flare. We can do that exact same little progress bar on a seasonal flare at the top up here, right there. So we can do the same thing there. So 3 different places we can show your status towards earning the next flare, which I think is good because that's easy information to find. Then, this one's more back-end technical stuff, but making sure that the process of ending a season is a little bit less expensive. It's currently a bulky, I'll call it bulky process. It has to do a lot of things related to map stats, making sure the MTC has up-to-date stats, and then resetting those stats for the next season. It has to do a lot of updating to the database for players because it's grabbing a couple thousand players and making sure that their flares are up to date, their win counts are reset, their soft reset on the skill score. All of that stuff needs to happen still. But if we're running that on an automated process, we have to make sure that it works every time and not have it be something that fails that we have to restart ourselves, because that's too much work, obviously. So that has to get done. And the only other thing with that is just adding in the flares themselves to make sure that they are visible before the season actually ends. Because if you have the flare awarded in the post-game flow, you need to actually have that flare existing, right? If we had the season 1 flare awarded in the post-game flow right now, there's no flare to give people. So you have to make sure it's actually on the site to be awarded, which means that we cannot be so behind like we were this season, where we have decided the ranked flare a week before the season ended. That's not going to work anymore. So we have to have the next season's flare ready before we actually start that next season. So that's the short version of the conversation that we had. I think I got most of what we talked about. Moosin, are you still here? Did I miss anything important? I did not get a haircut. No, I need a haircut. Oh God, oh gosh. Don't look. Well, it didn't look that bad before I put this hood on, but it does now. I do need a haircut pretty badly, but that's not going to happen. So, season 1 officially, I'll put an announcement out soon with this. Officially, season 1 is ending on March 14th. You can send everyone you want about that. That's happening. March 14 is the final day for season 1. March 15, in theory, should be the start day for season 2. And we are removing the word ranked from seasons. They are now just seasons. They are TagPro seasons. They apply to ranked and to casual. They do different things in each queue, but they exist for both. Questions? I've been yammering for half an hour. My God. I can't believe I showed my hair like that. That was awful. That's so bad. Did I miss a hot dog announcement? You did not miss a hot dog announcement. Thank you, Robiny, for the follow. Appreciate that. 70. It's supposed to, yeah, it's going to rain in my room. Yep. Let's see. Do you have a question? What's our plan to announce seasonal flares? I think that we have to. I mean, we don't have to, but I think it would be better if we show that flare on. Flares are weird. The way that flares work, I don't know how much I can show you guys this. Is it in the dev tools maybe? The way that flares work is they are a single image that we kind of cut up and we show pieces of on each player's ball. Here it is. So this is the flare image. It's a flare PNG, and it's got all of the flares that TagPro has in a single image. And so it's kind of difficult to say that we would add in a flare but not announce it ahead of time, because we need to add the flare to the PNG and then cut out the correct coordinates and then put it on a player's ball. So if we're going to award it to somebody, this graphic has to exist on the site somewhere. And if the graphic exists on the site somewhere, anybody can do what I just did and open up the dev tools and just see the flare right there. So we can't really, like, is there a way to do it? Yes, but the amount of work it would take to hide a flare that people are going to earn like 5 days into the season is kind of overkill. If you ask me, I just don't think there's much to be gained from that. But yeah, so I think what would end up happening is that we just show the flare on the profile. We don't announce that it's a thing like publicly or anything, but people can go to the all tab of their profile and they would see the dimmed out flare and then their progress towards that next one. Should we just announce the season 1 flare now then, or is it still considered work in progress? I'm going to call it work in progress just because we haven't actually built it yet. I mean, the flare is finished. I think I'm happy with how it looks. I'm surprised at how quickly I was able to make that flare, but I don't want to announce it until we very, very 100% know that we're doing it. Although we're 99.9%. It's going to happen. It's happening March 14th. It's fine. I think the hard part with that is that we need to go back and look at casual players who have played casual games during Season 1 and make sure that they are also getting that flare. Because right now we only have a count going for daily, weekly, monthly stats, and we only have a count going for ranked games. So if you are a casual player who played more than the requisite games, but most of those games came from more than a month ago, we don't actually have a record of those games other than in the replays tab. So we're going to need to go through the replays and count up your games basically to know that you did or didn't meet the requirements. And hopefully that's a quick process, but it's just a little bit of an extra step that we need to get done before we can do that. So just little things that need to be smoothed out. Yeah, bottom line, if you want to earn a flare, play TagPro. that's all it is. If you have not played 150 games since December... When did we start this season? I don't even know. I'll pull that up real quick. Season 1 begins next Monday, plus other ranked updates. This was on December 12th. So Monday, December 5th. So if you have not played 150 games since December 15th, you have until March 15th to meet that cutoff. If you don't know how many games you have played, just go to your replays tab, use the new filtering option that we added, and make sure that you are only looking at public games. So, oh wait. You can't filter by 2 game types. Never mind, ignore that. Just skip over the ones that are private and count them. It should be 50 results per page. Mini games don't count. Just skip over those. If you have 150, you will be eligible for the flare. So, I have 42 games. 42 is not close enough. You're on 143, Robiny? That doesn't sound right. You're ranked 155 in gold. You have 143 in one specific queue. How many do you have in a different queue? Are you in this queue? I should look at your profile. You're in gold 3 in neutral flag as well. So in neutral flag you have... I am blind. Oh gosh. You don't exist. Oh, you're not active. Right. But you probably have more than 7 games, I assume, right? And then if you have any casual games, you're going to be fine. Let's see. Yeah, so just remove the privates. That's a weird sentence to say all that. Remove the private games, and you should be fine. Yeah, this is you played a ton of games. What? This is all. Yeah, you're totally fine. If you got casual mixed in there, yeah, you're well above the cutoff revenue. This is the goal of this flare is for it to be accessible. It's not supposed to be the super high goal that's hard to get to. They're cool flares. We just want people playing the game to earn them. It's not like it's a thing that you should have to dump your entire week for or your entire 3-month period for to earn this thing. It should be you play the game casually, you play the game ranked, doesn't matter. You play enough games in a 3-month period. It's like 2 games a day average. 150 games over the course of 3 months. Less than 2 games a day. That's very doable. So I wouldn't worry too much about hitting it. No, Kaiser. Sorry, I think you might have missed that part. So we're removing the concept of ranked seasons, and we're introducing the concept of TagPro seasons, which is above ranked and above casual. So if you play games in either queue, they are going to count towards the seasonal flare. There will still be seasons in ranked, but those seasons follow TagPro's seasons. They are not specific to ranked. We were thinking about hot dogs. That's understandable. Yeah. So if you've played more than 150 games in ranked, any queue, any region, or casual, any server, any location, if you have a total between those, all of those of 150 or more, you will earn a flare. If you are not at that cutoff, just play a few more games. You have until March 15th, and then you will earn that flare. Yeah, 11 hours over the course of 3 months. I think that is a very achievable goal for a large percentage of the player base. So I'm not going to worry too much more about that. So it's about an hour of me talking now. Does anybody have other questions about what we just discussed? I'm checking out the forum. We have a couple of questions on the forum I'm going to get to in a moment. I have a question that I think I just answered, but I want to make sure that I did, so I'm going to say it out loud. It's on the form. Any potential consideration regarding players only playing ranked and no casual, and vice versa, or is this not considered an issue at all? So I think there are two ways to interpret this question. The first one is related to the conversation we just had about flares, and the answer is not a problem because you can play either queue. I think what they might be getting at, though, is do we as a game want to do more to encourage players who only like one or the other game mode to try the other one? So if you are someone who only plays ranked, you only like ranked, is there something we can be doing or should be doing as a site to encourage you to also queue for casual once in a while? And then the flip side of that, if you only play casual, is there something we can or should be doing to encourage you to play ranked? And I think my knee-jerk reaction to that is no, just because there's a reason we have two queues. And the reason is that they accomplish different things. They serve different purposes, and they appeal to different, I guess demographics is the right word. If you don't want to play super sweaty, don't. If you do, then do. That's the whole point, is that we have such a long-lived player base that there are players who just cannot stand playing with people below their skill level, and I think that it's hard to blame them for that. If you've been playing this game for 15 years, 12 years, whatever the number is, more than a decade is the bottom line, and you're very good at the game, I can understand why it would be frustrating for you to have somebody who's been playing for 3 hours on your team. I sympathize with that. I don't agree with it personally. I think I find it more fun to play with them, but I can understand why some people don't. And then the other side of it, if you don't want to be yelled at every game, if you want to just boost on offense or boost backwards every time and try your best, but not necessarily play like the best current meta, I can't fault you for that either. It's a silly 2D browser game. You're a ball grabbing, like, it's just, I don't think it's reasonable to try to force people into one of those boxes. That's the whole point of the system we have, is to allow you to pick whichever lane works the best for your gaming style in this moment. So could we do something to encourage players to like trial it every once in a while? Maybe. I think that I just don't see what the long-term benefit of that is. Like, you're going to have events that come back that's going to be casual only, so that might be something that pushes people to try and casual. For ranked, I feel like if you don't know what ranked is and you're not willing to try it, you're probably not the kind of person who's going to be convinced by anything that we can offer you in ranked, right? If you have not played ranked yet, there's nothing more that ranked could offer for you that would like what is ranked? It's higher level games of people close to your skill level. If that's not appealing to you, what else could you add to sweeten that deal that's going to change it? We could add a flare. We just discussed why that's a bad idea, so we're not doing that. I just don't see the reason to push people to ranked if they don't want to. That's not what TagPro is. Like, TagPro has ranked, but it is not ranked. Croissant, you missed a very, very long-winded conversation. You're going to want to watch that one back for sure. I am not going to try to rehash it for you, but it's worth a watch in my opinion. But stick around for the rest of it. We still got about half hour to go here. So would we consider doing something like Overwatch and promising bonus coins if they queue in a playlist that needs more active players at that moment? Now that is an interesting question. That's a very interesting question. So to give some context for that, Moosin's talking about for the in-game shop, you have a coin system and you have a reward system where you can play games, earn coins, buy things with those coins, like cosmetics or we'll keep it at cosmetics for now. There's going to be more than that, but that's good enough for now. Is there a reason or an argument to incentivize players to join lower population queues with more coins to then revive those regions? And I think the easiest example of that would be, say you earn, and these numbers mean nothing, say you earn 5 coins for playing casual on US East, but there are no games going on Europe servers. Maybe you say, okay, if you queue up in European servers, you're going to get 10 coins per game right now, until there are enough games going on Europe where it's equivalent to US East, and at that point, it's not there's no reason to give you more coins. So it would be kind of a location-dependent, pricing's not the right word, but it's kind of what comes to mind, where based on the number of games happening in a day in that region, do you reduce the number of coins, or rather expand the number of coins elsewhere to promote players moving into those regions? I think that's worth exploring. I don't know if I have a clear answer on how we would handle that right this second, but I like the premise at face value. So I'd say, would we consider it? Yes. Will we do it? Maybe. I can't promise that right this second. First, they need to be coins. Yes, Oddball. Some sort of coupon if you try ranked, like a free sub from Subway. Now we're talking. Play 2 ranked games and enjoy them or your money back. A raffle tickets. I like that. Give us a too long didn't watch. I literally I can't. I just gave you the too long didn't read of a 3-day conversation, and it took me half an hour to even say that. So I can't summarize it more. Seasons are becoming TagPro specific, not ranked specific. The flair that you earned for being active in a ranked season is now going to be for being active on TagPro in ranked or casual. Leaderboards are going to become casual specific, not ranked specific. Or sorry, not combined rather. So ranked specific leaderboard stays as is. Leaderboards tab becomes casual specific. Add seasonal leaderboard. Award a flair. Change the number of players who can earn different flares for being at the top of the leaderboards. That's your summary. Moving on. Whew. Surge pricing, yeah. Early morning casual games. I think so. It'd have to be more like how many games are happening right now, not more aggregate stuff. Because if you have, like you said, like if it's 9 a.m. and you want to keep for TagPro, I think you should get a little more in the morning than you would get for 4 p.m. when things are at their busiest. Right now we have 7 games going, 63 users online. A good chunk of those users are on US East. We have 1 casual game going on Central. We have 2 or 3 games going on US East right now. I think another one's about to spawn. So in the morning, though, you only have 1 game going on any server. So would you offer more for them joining? I think probably. I think there wouldn't be a benefit to doing it more nuanced than that. I think that's a good line to draw. So yeah, I'm going to say yes if we went that route. So yeah, then casual versus ranked is also an interesting question. I don't think I'm as inclined to do that though, because if you're going back to the conversation we just had, players want to play a specific game mode. I think that the difference between regions is a little bit more palatable than the difference between game modes. Because if you're queuing for ranked, there's a reason you're queuing for ranked. It's you want the ranked experience. If you're queuing for casual, you want the casual experience. If you are queuing for US Central versus US East, it's really just what servers can I play on with playable ping that are as close to me as possible. And maybe if you have an incentive to going a little bit outside of your comfort zone for a couple extra coins, that's worth it for you. Like I'm comfortable playing on US Central right now. Would I play on Europe? I don't have any reason to right now because I have really good ping to US East. So if I was getting more coins for Europe, I could play on Europe. The ping is still playable. It's the same casual experience, just a slightly higher ping. I think that is an easier sell than trying to shift somebody over into a different mentality, a different game mode with that reward. So I don't know. I'm not going to make any decisions on that right now. I think it's worth playing around with for sure. But I'm just going to count that as our feature building session for the week because I don't have an idea for what else to do. I was going to talk for the whole stream. So maybe that's our answer. Extra tag coins. Yeah, I think tag coins is the answer to that for sure. So show us the hair. Why do you want to see my hair? I have this. It's so bad. It was fine before the stream, and then Yelpa's like, put on a jacket. Terrible. See the feet? No, absolutely not. Any updates to gameplay planned? Could you elaborate on that question, Thanos Ball? Oh, we forgot to do the candy board. Oh my goodness, what am I doing? It's been an hour. Yeah, we're switching to the candy board. Was casual game balancing removed recently? Sort of. Candy what? No, candy board. Croissant, yeah, I want to answer that question. Was casual game balancing removed recently? Sort of is the answer. And this was in the release notes, but I'll talk about it a little more here. We have modified the logic used to decide whether a casual game should be balanced or not. So previously, in a casual game, it would take the teams that were selected randomly and it would see what the outcome was going to be. If there was a greater than 60 or less than 40% chance of a team winning or losing, it would balance that game to be as close to those boundaries as possible, or even within those boundaries. If it could make it like a 50-50, it would. So almost every game, it was finding it wasn't perfectly even, so it would make it as even as possible. We have modified that code, but not removed it, so that it only runs the balancing act when there are more than 2 players in the game, and then it only actually balances them if the predicted win is worse than 25 to 75% chance of winning. So if you have an 80% chance of winning that game, the game is essentially predicting a blowout, and it's going to balance that game so that it is not a blowout. But if the game says 40% or 35%, there's still a chance that could be winnable for either team because there are a lot of uncertainty factors in casual. You have players leaving for ranked. You have some balls who aren't really ranked properly yet. You have just straight disconnects because players are willing to leave the queue because it's casual. So all those factors mean that the game that you start with those 8 players is very rarely the same 8 players that you end the game with. And even if it is the same 8, those 8 players aren't always going to be ranked super accurately in the first place. So those predictions are not super accurate, and they're not supposed to be because it's just casual, so it's fine. They're kind of a rough estimate of how things are going to be. If that rough estimate says this team's about to get blown out of the water, then yes, we're going to adjust it so that doesn't happen. So you're seeing fewer and fewer games being balanced because we have expanded the tolerance on what a game can be before we decide to balance it. So yes and no is the answer to your question. Other things I just saw here. Got tweaked so it happens less often. Yeah, it was nerfed hard. Yeah, it was definitely nerfed hard. That's a fair summary. Yeah, candy board, not candy porn. Clutch time. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. That's what reminded me about the candy board, Kaiser. I want to talk about that in a moment. Break Sunball 6's brain. I don't know who that is. Casual clutch time will make games longer. Maybe. They need to rebuild the map editor. Yeah, that's a different thing. That's actually in progress right now. If you've been following Discord, Electro is toying with the idea. We don't have anything finalized yet, but he's been around recently, so hopefully we can see some progress there. I know, but okay, hold on. I don't know who Sunball 6 that you're talking about is. I see a Sunball 6 every day. Anyway, let's go to the candy board. So again, the candy board is still out of reach. We don't have the ability to update tags on it. So if you have not seen your post get an update, that's not anything we can do about it. We are in the process of rebuilding this for ourselves, like an internal version of it, instead of relying on Canny's version of it. We have a meeting on Monday night to go through the initial draft, I guess is the right term. It's made. We have to make sure it looks the way that we want it to work, and then upload all the data that we have into it. So it's coming along nicely. Let's sort by new and then get to it. Sunball 6 fan here. Hello, Doku. All right, starting with, where did we end off last week? Did we respond to this? Build a cat says, what the hell did I do? Yes, we got that one. Is this the next one? Pubs isn't playable today. I have to keep my hair covered. Nobody look at my hair. All right. Pubs isn't playable today. It's either scrubs or noobs, but there are too many completely counterintuitive or incompetent players. I guess it's ranked only for me for a bit, says Vedic D. I mean, yeah, that's what casual is. It's players who aren't. What is this even asking me to do? If you want high-level even games, that's what ranked is. Why is this even a... It's good to see players who are bad in casual. That's the whole point of casual. What do you want? Oh, boy. Hi, Cheese. Nice jacket. I didn't submit a question in advance. I was wondering why, if Spheroid won 11 games in a row, does he get +5 in a 49% game? I would need to look at the actual data for that. I could answer it. I just don't have it in front of me right now. I'll come back to that because we're in the middle of this, but I will get to that question later. I wish I could close this, Grant. I really do, but I can't because we don't have access to the candy board. This is the entire point of having a ranked system. And that's going to be... Oh, yeah. Okay. I see. Closed. Excellent. Next. Increased likelihood of mixing in EU servers. The joiner settings often show 8+ players queued for EU, but US East is chosen in 99% of the cases. So, this is an interesting question or request. We have a system that handles this in ranked. We don't necessarily have a system that handles this in casual. And the problem is that the way casual decides a server is it looks at all the players who are online, it looks at their connection to every server around them, and it tries to group them together in groups of 8. Fine. When it groups together 8 players, if 8 of them have Europe selected and 8 of them, those same 8, also have US East selected, it's going to pick the server with the lowest average ping. And that makes a lot of sense if you have, say, 7 players in New York and 1 player in Miami. It's going to pick the New York server, not the Atlanta server, because most of the players are close to New York. So that part makes sense. But if you're trying to get a whole different region, we don't have any logic that says, I'm closer to the US East server, but I would rather play on the European server if I can. So when this would happen is if more of the players in that group of 8 are in Europe than players are in the US, then it would send them to the European server. I think part of the problem is that on average, European players are farther away from the European servers than North American players are from the North American servers. And just to put that into perspective, if I am in Eastern Europe and my server is Amsterdam, I am being compared on a ping that's maybe in the 40s or 50s. But if I am a Boston player and I'm queued for New York, I'm 10 ping away from that. And so you're comparing your 60 or 70 ping to Amsterdam against my 10 ping to New York. Even if there are 4 and 4, the players who are closer to that New York server are going to win out and pull everybody over. I don't know if we have a great solution to that right this second. It is something we should probably look into a little bit closer. The way that we did it with ranked is completely different. We basically just say if there are 8 players queued for Europe and queued for US, take the European one first and then take the US one second, because they wanted to be queued for Europe anyway. That was our attempt to revitalize Europe. It didn't really work because we don't have the player base for it. If you are a European player who wants games in Europe, though, I would strongly recommend that you queue for US East Casual Ranked EU. And what that will do is it will put you in US East games until there are 8 European players online, and then when that happens, it will guarantee a ranked European game. That's what we want you to do. It hasn't happened yet, but that would be the most likely way of getting a European game right now. I still think what you're suggesting makes sense. I think we could improve the system, but with what the system we have right now doesn't quite work the way that you want it to be. I missed a lot of chat while I was explaining that. Oh gosh. TagPro forum? No. Has there been a Homic push? I talked about this a little bit last week. We have a slight uptick in account creation rates, and that's about it. I think in terms of new players, it's been, again, slightly above average, but not like a huge explosion compared to most weeks. I gave some actual numbers a week or two ago that I can pull up for you later if needed. But definitely some new players from the tournament itself. I think the question before that I got was, has there been more growth than expected from the Homic tournament? So there has been an increase in the new players because players who are in that tournament are playing and they are new. But beyond that group of players, I haven't seen a whole lot of an increase. You've seen leaves on players who clearly are not new. Kaiser, if you see that, you can feel free to call mods for that. We can always investigate. We have it's a semi-automated system. It's not fully automated. There are false positives on the new player indicator. Mods do mark those players if they are marked incorrectly. So if you see one, you can let us know. We can look into it and make sure they don't have that leaf, because we want the leaf to be as accurate as possible so that players don't just assume that it's wrong all the time. We want people to be nice to people who have the leaf on, obviously. So let us know if you're seeing that. 52 new players in the last month from Homic ranging. Yeah, there's one player who's in the 30 degrees right now. It's pretty impressive. I can confirm that we use IP addresses as part of the check, yes, but not all of it. There are multiple games. A few euros might get split across multiple offset games. Yes, Andu, and that's another part of what I was talking about. I'm glad you brought that up, because if you are in a casual game, you can't get pulled out of the casual game into another casual game, but you can get pulled out of the casual game into a ranked game, and that is why we recommend that you queue for ranked EU casual North America. So you're still going to get games, but now as soon as there are 8, it doesn't matter what state that you're in. If you're out of the joiner, in the joiner, in a game, doesn't matter. When there are 8 of you anywhere, it will pull all of you into that ranked game. So it's a way to guarantee that ranked game happens, as opposed to not being able to tell that you're going to get one. Counterpoint, be nice to everybody. I'm okay with that. Is it appropriate to note that it is in a mods call? I would say mods, Moosin, Smurf is good enough for us to look into it. Don't go crazy with that. I'm like, don't send it as a joke. We don't want you Boy Who Cried Wolfing us, because that does happen, but you can let us know. Seasonal flare so bad. Yeah, you can also send us a message on Discord. That's fine. Totally fine. All right, anyway, let me answer this person in a concise way. The recommended approach for EU games right now is to queue for US East casual and EU and ranked EU at the same time. Casual games are not well equipped to group players who are in different games at the same time, or to prioritize European games, but Ranked has a system specifically designed to create EU games whenever it can. This can be improved in the future, but is a known limitation of the current system. All right. Then next up, we've got bring back square and triangle to group settings. That is planned. There is a planned feature for events to be added into private groups. I think so. Yeah, here it is. Where'd that go? There are plans to add all old events to private groups. See this ticket for details. Oops. What? Did I not copy this? Oh, I just copied the letter U. Nice. That's really good. Okay, then we've got microtransaction feature cherry picking. What? Pay to shortlist players one may prefer to have on team, perhaps somehow bumps chances a small percent in matchmaking. Conversely, pay to list players not desired, maybe like 10 times the cost. Teams are not always 50-50. Perhaps an ELO team rating tax would apply if purchased for that match. This might be a bad idea. Thank you, Damon. I have no idea what this is requesting. I think it's saying that you want to be able to spend coins to not get certain teammates. We don't have the luxury of team selection in public games at this time. That's very funny, Damon. Thank you. Man, the chat is ridiculous today. I cannot keep up with this. Do mods ever send a link to the tutorial? Yes, we have. Usually in an appeal, though. Not in-game. I'm pretty sure you skipped my candy post. Don't worry, I'm not that mad. Where? Who? Point it out, Grant, while I'm looking at the chat. Tell me which one. Numbers 1411. I don't know what that is, but I believe you. That would be a good macro. You're running out of shortcuts for your macros. Well, boy, do I have a feature for you that we talked about on stream before. You can look that up on, I think it was 3 weeks ago. We're having default macros and then customizable macros with more options, because you can use 2 keys instead of 1 key for a macro. You're busy, but you're here now. You like my jacket. Thank you, Josh. You can thank Yalpa for the jacket. I am sweating so much in this thing, but it's okay. It's not waterproof on the inside, just on the outside. right, Grant. Oh, add team map vote indicators and rank joiner. There it is. Damn, get ignored. Add an indicator next to the name of the map that shows how many members of your team have voted for a given map. Yeah, that seems reasonable. I think I would just put their flare next to it. So like that person's flare shows up next to the map. If they have the same flare, you might not know which one it is, but I don't think that's a big deal. I'm gonna say that this is a good idea. Let's make a ticket for this real quick while we're here. Add ranked map vote indicators to launcher. Relevant. Can he post? Not that one. When a player votes on a map, we currently change the flare next to their name from the blueprint to a check mark to indicate that they have voted. In addition to this, my one concern with this, before I put this ticket in, is how much do players like having their votes be anonymous? Because this does remove some anonymity from the map voting. Oddball wants his vote to be public. Fair. Kaiser wants anonymous. So just show a check. Don't say who. Well, you'll be able to tell Moose no, because you'll get the check mark next to the name and the check mark on the... I guess, would you remove the icon next to their individual names? Yeah, your mock-up was very good, Grant. Sorry for not showing everybody the big view. The problem is that if I have it like this, and then Ceremony turns into a check mark, and I see another check mark next to Transilio, I know that Ceremony voted for Transilio. So you would have to remove this whole thing over here, and then you wouldn't know who had voted or not. I guess it doesn't really matter who submitted the vote. You would still need the indicator that says the person is or is not in the launcher, but I guess you would... Yeah, I guess it would just be the question block, and then the question block goes away as soon as they actually join, and then at some point a check mark appears up here, and somebody voted when that happens. I like not having the guy who yells for one map. No, I voted against it. Yeah, I tend to vote against whatever is requested as well. Sue me. Yeah, you would see that a lot, Grant, for sure. Muzina's a good idea. All right, I'm gonna sideline that ticket until we get a little farther along. Josh had a question that I'll talk about while Musin types that up. I had a question about visual updates for the game. How intense of a change will those be prior to Steam? What can we expect it to look like? I can't go into a ton of detail on that right now, mostly because we don't have concrete plans. Otherwise, we would have built them already. But the plan right now is probably a bit of a hybrid. I don't think that we're going to be completely done with the site redesign by the time that this game is ready to be a like in the trial period on Steam. I think I've talked about with Steam, we're not going to go straight from not Steam to full, hey, look at us, we're on Steam. It's going to be not Steam to beta on Steam, which is, I think Grant laughed about this last time. The game's been around for 12 years. We're going into beta. And once we get it in beta, make sure it works properly. That's where all the design changes can happen. And then once we're happy with that, that's when we can publish it and be like, hey, come check out our game and see what happens. So I don't have a lot of detail to share on that just because we haven't really gotten to that point yet. But in terms of how drastic they would be, I can't really answer that too well until we actually have it done. I think that we want to keep some of the same... I'm hesitant to even say anything here, but like the same kind of vibe, I guess. Not the aesthetic, not the color scheme, and maybe the color scheme persists in some capacity, but you don't want to lose that feel of the site, but you also don't want it to feel so dated. And those are two things that kind of butt heads sometimes. So that's the kind of thing that I'm going to want a lot more feedback on when we have something to show for it, because there's going to be a lot of discussion and trialing and basically just looking at things, deciding if they look like crap or look good, and then trying to decide if that's something you want to build off of and go from there. So I want to have a better answer for you. I really do, but I don't think I can really get into it right this second. Moose, are you still typing? I bought you as much time as I could there. Overwatch does little blue-red lights to show votes. We could do the same thing, but with team gates as the icons. Huh? I don't get it. Little blue... You know, like instead of check marks here, just lights? That's not different than the... That's the same request, just with a different visual. What? That's the same request. That's just check marks, but the check marks are gates. That's not a different thing. I thought you were going to give me like a whole... I mean, yeah, it's fine. I'm not that opposed to it, but it's... You didn't say it was different? Okay, fine. Anyway, in terms of this ticket, I think I sympathize with the wanting my vote to be anonymous side of things more. This could be the kind of thing that we allow people to cast it anonymously or not, but then if like two people cast it not anonymously, it outs the third person anyway, so you can't really go that route. Yeah. I think I'm going to not finish that ticket and we're going to talk about it internally. Snail, what? Yeah, don't, no. I don't like that. I'll get back to you on that, Grant. I think we need to just chat a little more internally about how we want to go about that. Sorry I missed that, though, in the first place. Now, back to the requests here. We've got one more, which is what Kaiser was asking about before. And I'm glad that Meowza put this in last night because I do want to talk about it a little bit more. So, clutch time. For those who don't know what it is, because they only play casual or don't actually play this game, but they're watching the stream for some reason, it's the end of game logic that we have added to ranked matchmaking. Changes similar to, if you play Rocket League, it's similar to the ball in the air mechanic, where the clock might expire, but the game doesn't actually end until the play is dead. And the way that we decide the play is dead is whether or not a team is holding the flag. So, the way that we've broken this down into a little more nuance is if it is a 1-point game only, the team that is losing the game, if they are holding a flag when time expires, the game does not end, it continues into clutch time. And while they are holding that flag, two things can happen. They can either capture that flag, or they can get popped and they can drop that flag. In either of those cases, clutch time will end. If they captured the flag, now the game is tied because they were losing by 1. That was a requirement to even get into this state. So they capture it, the game is tied. Now you transition into overtime. If they drop the flag, now the game is over because there is no flag held. They are losing by 1. Time has expired. Game is done. That is only a feature in ranked right now. That is not a feature in casual. It is also not really a feature in neutral flag because it doesn't work too well. I mean, it exists, but it's not working the way that we want it to. So the reason casual does not exist, clutch time does not exist in casual is because we have not finished that mechanic for a neutral flag. And I'm going to answer the people who are saying it's going to make games take longer in a minute. In capture the flag, that system makes sense because if you have a flag and you cap it or you drop it, that's the whole play. But in neutral flag, the play does not necessarily end when you lose the flag because handoffs are a big part of what neutral flag is. So if you have a flag and you hand it off to the opponent and then that opponent gets popped by your teammate and then your teammate scores, it's a little chain reaction essentially, that is a valid play to capture a neutral flag. We want to be able to preserve that system without completely redoing how clutch time works. So the current plan that we have not gotten to yet is to add potato timers that I'm not going to bother explaining right now, but basically if the team that is losing has the flag, they can hold indefinitely. There's no timer on how long they can hold. If the team that is winning has a neutral flag, they can hold it for up to 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, that flag will explode and it will pop their ball. When that happens, nobody is holding a flag, so the game would end. But in those 5 seconds, if they are tagged by somebody on the losing team again, you're back to that indefinite hold until they can potentially capture. So it preserves the ability for handoffs to happen, but it does not force the team that is winning to hold forever or to score or to find a way to pop. They just have to hold for 5 seconds and then the game will end. So once we have that added, that is when casual could maybe explore having clutch time. Because I don't want to have a situation right now where we have a semi-unintuitive system for clutch time in neutral flag, but not in capture the flag, and then we're having mixing game modes. Because thinking about it from a new player's perspective, clutch time is kind of a confusing thing to add in neutral flag right now. It doesn't really, like, you get the last hold and then you can't really capture, so it's kind of pointless. Like, the number of times I've seen a neutral flag game go to overtime because of a clutch time hold is once, maybe, since we added it. It's not really common for that to happen. So I don't think we can rely on that being a good system long term. So a good reason to get rid of neutral flag, yeah, that's a different conversation. But hopefully that answered your question. For now, there are planned changes to the NF clutch time system involving a potato flag. Once those are done, casual will receive clutch time as well. Now, there were some comments before about clutch time potentially increasing the duration of games, which is true, but I think that is an okay trade-off for me because it doesn't happen every game. It doesn't even happen most games. And when it happens, it's exciting. It's cool for things to happen during clutch time. So I don't think there's really anything lost for the game extending a little bit longer. Games going to overtime is not inherently a bad thing. You don't want the game to last forever. I think that the overtime rules in casual, definitely you need some attention. Grant, don't get started. But that's a different problem we can worry about when we get there. I think that I'm biased because I am the one who made clutch time. I like it a lot, but I feel like it's just a more exciting gaming experience, and the whole point of playing the game is to have fun. I think it's more fun. I don't think it's much more complicated than that. And that's my opinion. You can dislike it if you want, but that's what it is. So, other things people said. Does this have to end in 2 minutes? I like talking to Cheese. He's a nice guy. Oh, thanks, man. And it doesn't have to end. The problem is that when I go past 90 minutes, my free video transcriber stops working. So I can't turn these into text posts, and then I can't paste them into a different model to generate my AI summaries for the stream. So we lose that. So I think, unless anybody has any other questions, that is going to be it for today. But thank you for sticking around while I yammered on for a while there. Restart the stream? Yeah, no, it's not the stream's fault. It's the video cutter. It can't take video files longer than 90 minutes. So and only get one a day. So I can't do that either. I can't break it up. So nope, it's done. It's over. That's the end of the stream. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope everyone has a good rest of their Friday. If you have any questions for me to talk about next week, there's that form you can find pinned in the chat right now. You can also find that on the YouTube comments section or in the Reddit comment section. And I will get to that next week on stream. Show us my hair. All right, hair reveal. Again, it did not look like this before I put this damn hood on, but oh my God, it's so bad. It's so bad. Whoo! Yeah, it's not what I normally look like. All right, anyway, that's the stream. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. Have a lovely time, and I will see you all later.